Hi, my name is Hannah Turner, and this is my case study for Module 10 for EDL 853. A summary of the case. Here's my report. There's a lot of people involved. There's a lot of things that are going on. It's kind of convoluted, so kind of bear with me here. Um, so the people that are involved first primarily is the student. It surrounds the student Miguel Hernandez. He is a student at my high school, and he has recently been paralyzed in a football game. His parents, Mr. and Mrs. Hernandez, are also very much involved in this situation. Um, the catalyst for this unfortunate situation with Miss Guzman, who is our counselor. Um, the Hernandezes have hired a lawyer. His name is Howard Carey, and then of course the principal, who is myself. So what has happened? Miguel was the quarterback at our football team, and unfortunately, he was injured in an accident at a game of no fault of anyone's. It was an accident. As a result, he was paralyzed from the waist down, which means he is now in a wheelchair. Um, our school is fairly old. There is one of his classes that was not wheelchair accessible. Is his college preparatory biology class. And Miss Guzman removed him from that class in favor of a different one, which is wheelchair accessible. And his parents were very obviously and very clearly upset with this decision because they were not involved. This all occurred. Miguel was injured the last football game of the season. He was gone for a couple months for therapy, physical therapy, and then when he came back, we had a assembly for him to welcome him back, and then he was immediately told of this change. His parents were not present for that change. Um, and then the next day, I get a phone call from his parents, who are very upset, and they are now have come to my office to have a meeting with me and their lawyer. So who's concerned about the situation? Obviously, all of us are. Miguel and his parents want him to be able to go to college. This class is very important for this specific college that he wants to go to. Their lawyer obviously wants the law to be followed. I also want the law to be followed. It's very important that we do that. We take care of that first. And Miss Guzman and all of the adults involved, including myself, we want what's best for Miguel. We want him to get the education that he deserves. So some legal and ethical issues that we have cropped up in this case. Besides Miguel being physically injured in the football game, no one has physically been harmed by the counselor's decision to remove him from class. But the parents are arguing that his future is being harmed by the fact that he's not in college preparatory biology class, which is what this specific university requires from him. Um, Legally, the action to remove this student from his chosen class does violate FAPE. He does qualify under IDEA, like the lawyer has stated. He does qualify for ADA accommodations. And this removal without notifying parents specifically does violate FAPE, free appropriate education. It is the school's responsibility to teach him in his least restrictive environment, and we have eliminated that. And of course, parents need to be notified of any and all changes to his plan, which they were not. So the law was broken, which does constitute a breach of contract. And this was discriminatory. Like, he was removed not because of any academic reasons or any behavioral reasons. He was removed because he is now in a wheelchair. He can keep up mentally. It's just his physical disability that's keeping him from being in that class, which therefore that is discriminatory. I know that the counselor didn't mean to do this, but intent doesn't matter in this situation. The fact stands that the law was broken. So to kind of put it all together, put a little bow on it, after an injury that resulted in paralysis that required the use of a wheelchair, Miguel was removed from a college preparatory biology class without the consent of his parents. That's important, due to the inaccessibility of the particular class, and his parents have threatened legal action against the school. So there's lots of things going on here. Okay, so kind of to further synthesize these facts, we've got several people involved. Um, Miguel is a sophomore, and he was recently physically disabled. He's paralyzed. He is a very popular student. He was quarterback of our football team, which was quite good. The community watches him, and the community supports him. The community is very supportive of the school. So his situation, I'm sure, is being very closely monitored by the community as a whole. His parents, Mr. and Mrs. Hernandez, are very clearly advocates for him and his education, and they have already hired a lawyer. So they have done their homework on this situation, and they have acted quite quickly. Um, and Miss Guzman and other staff, along with myself, we just want what is best for students. Um, Miss Guzman, I know, was trying to do what she thought was best for him in this situation, but unfortunately, she made some incorrect decisions. Our high school is called Nottingham High School. It's in the community of Dover, which is extremely supportive of their high school. The community loves to go out to football games and cheer them on. So Miguel Hernandez and the Hernandez family are like very much in the public spotlight. Our school is quite large. We serve 3,200 students, and our school was built in the 1950s. Um, while most of it, three-fourths of it, has been brought up to meet ADA guidelines, one-fourth of it has not, which includes the classroom of this college preparatory biology class. But plans are being made to make the entire school up to ADA code. We are a public high school, and we do offer special education services under Section 504 in accordance to the law. So, kind of to prioritize all of this information. Could this conflict be damaging to the community, to the stakeholders? Absolutely, it could be damaging. Like I said before, the community is most likely closely watching what is happening. And if we handle this incorrectly, we have lost the faith of the community. And that's something that's very important for schools everywhere, not just ours. And if we make the wrong decision, that we could continue to damage not only our relationship with the Hernandez family, but also to damage Miguel's future. This is his education that's at stake here, and he deserves only the best, like all of our students. So the people that have an important stake in this outcome, obviously Miguel, because this is his future we're talking about, and his family, because in relation to Miguel, they want what's best for their son. And also Miss Guzman and myself and the rest of the school, like we could, if we make an incorrect decision here, we could easily result in a lawsuit, which would not at all be good for our school, obviously. Um, has everyone that needs to be consulted have been consulted? Absolutely not. I think the superintendent needs to know about this, Dr. Harvey, which he does not currently. And I also think that the different science teachers also need to be consulted. We need to see if we can make some alterations to a classroom or not. Do I know enough about this situation? Do I know enough to make a decision? Absolutely not. I need to talk to as many people as I possibly can, given my short amount of time that I'm sure that I have, and make a decision as a group. This is not something that I can do on my own. So, some of my thoughts that I have, there's kind of three different paths that I can take. First, I can do nothing, just leave the situation as is. I can give the Hernandez family some sort of, cover story. It's the way it's got to be. But that will most likely result in a lawsuit. The school will most likely lose, and we could lose millions of dollars, and also the faith of in the community. It would not be a good situation. I have a feeling that when I talk to Dr. Harvey, he will tell me I need to do something and not nothing. Next, this is the most comprehensive thing that I can possibly think of. Most of the school is wheelchair accessible, so chances are there is some science lab somewhere in the school that is wheelchair accessible. So that I could maybe move his biology class with a different biology class that is wheelchair accessible and move the classrooms. That way, his classroom does become wheelchair accessible. And then some sort of compromise. I've come up with a few. First, we could place him in an online college preparatory biology class so he can continue with the class that he started. If it's online, it's ADA accessible. But if this doesn't work, we could see about putting him in a different college preparatory science class. Maybe it's not biology, but regardless, whichever path we take there, that classroom will need to become ADA compliant by the beginning of next year. Miguel is a sophomore, so he does have 2 years after this year in order to get that class before college. So we do have some time that we can use to our advantage here. So my evaluation of my options. Option one, I think this is definitely the worst one. Um, the pros are to protect the counselor's decision. We present ourselves as a united front, but we would be presenting ourselves as a united front for a failure of a decision. We would most certainly lose that lawsuit. That would how it would happen if I did nothing. Next, my liberal action that is switching the classes halfway through the year, switching the classrooms, not his class. The family would get exactly what they want. He would be able to stay in that class and he'd be able to physically attend it. Um, and that would most likely avoid a lawsuit because we would be meeting their demands. But it would put at least two teachers out of their rooms for a few days in the middle of the year while classes are rearranged. And moving classrooms during the summer is hard enough for teachers, but during the middle of the year would be very, very difficult. And finally, the compromise, the family almost gets exactly what they want, and it puts less strain on my teachers, but it may not satisfy the family altogether, and it creates an absolute firm timeline to complete those necessary repairs. We might not have the money, we might not have the time, but it has to be done. So before I select a choice, I need to complete this meeting with the parents and the lawyer. What they tell me they want, why they are upset. That's going to kind of guide my decision making from here on out. So very, very much, I need to finish that meeting with them. After that, I can offer up my apologies and yes, his rights were violated, but I will assure them that, doing right by Miguel is our number one priority. And I would ask for at least a few days to meet with other stakeholders, meet with my superintendent, meet with all these other teachers that need to be met with in order to come up with a plan. And we would be presenting that plan to the parents within a week. So after I meet with the parents and the lawyer, I would get a sit team together. That is a student intervention team with all necessary staff. That would be myself, probably the superintendent, because a lawsuit has been threatened. Special education teacher, because they'll have a lot of insight into IDEA and the law. The counselor, maybe the school psychologist, and the biology teacher. Definitely those people would be in the sit team. And together we would come up with a plan. The plan that we come up together may be completely different than those three options that I came up with. But regardless, we are making this decision together. Um, After we come up with some options to present to parents, we will come back together for a conference for an IEP meeting with all of those same people, but now also including Miguel, his parents, and his lawyer. And we could present our best course of action to them from there. I believe that my compromising offer probably is the best. Um, but I can see that it might be not enough for them. They might only want him to be in that college preparatory biology class in person, which I completely understand. And if that is the case, then I am prepared to switch classrooms in the middle of the year. The community is extremely supportive, like I said. If I were to ask the community to help these teachers switch their classrooms in the middle of the year, and if they knew why we were doing that, I'm sure that we could get several volunteers to help these teachers move their rooms, and it wouldn't be as big of an issue as it could be in a different place. So implementing our decision, step one, obviously, is to meet with the parents and the lawyer to discuss what they want from Miguel and offer up an apology. I think it's important that they feel heard and feel understood. Step two is to create and meet with the SIT team members to discuss viable options and decide together what the best course of action is, and do this within a few days of this meeting with parents and lawyer. Um, and before I do that, I also would like to talk to Mrs. Guzman. She needs to know that she made a mistake. I'm not angry with her, but I am a little surprised. And she needs to understand like why she made a mistake. She didn't notify parents. We didn't meet together as a team to make that decision. There was maybe some other alternatives that we could have come up with together before she made such a drastic decision that resulted in very upset parents. After I do the SIT team, we should meet again with the parents and other relevant stakeholders like Miguel and the lawyer to discuss the options, and then together we select the correct one, the best one. And then finally, we should implement that choice made by the IEP team, mostly the parents, and monitor the results closely. Whatever we choose, it may not be a good idea, and we may need to come back to the drawing board and start again. But if we do make any changes, we now know that it's really important that we notify parents of any changes before we make those. So, what could possibly happen? Okay, there's a lot that could happen. First, I have a feeling Miguel will have a difficult time adjusting, and he might need some counseling services. And I would bring that up in the IEP meeting. We may need to put him in a different class in order for him to be successful. Um, it may not, online biology may not be a good fit for him. It may not be a good fit for him to be in a different science class in the middle of the year. None of it may not work. But I think it's important to know that I'm not going to give up if my, few ideas don't work. I would go back and I would try again. Um, I think not everyone has been told yet. First, besides parents and then staff members that will need to know, the counselor, she definitely needs to be brought into the loop. Relevant teachers like the biology teacher, maybe a different science teacher where he could be in that class, a school psychologist, and definitely the superintendent. He would be able to give me the best advice in regards to moving forward with when we have a lawsuit being threatened. And definitely special education teacher can provide a lot of insight. She'll know more about what's going on than I will. Can I deal with this alone? Absolutely not. There's too much at stake here for me to be able to make this decision alone. First, I need to discuss this with Ms. Guzman. She made a huge mistake. And she needs to understand that to avoid another situation like this, we need to have a meeting, all of us together, with the parents. She met with the parents alone, and it should have been I should have been in there. The special education teacher should have also been there, and maybe even the school psychologist should have been there. We all should have been there, and hopefully we would have had a chance to meet before we met with the parents when Miguel came back to kind of iron out maybe any difficulties with his schedule, and the fact that he's in a wheelchair. So it just boils down to a lack of communication, a lack of communication with staff members and coming up with a solution before the problem came up, and a lack of communication between the counselor and the parents when she made the decision without notifying them. That's against the law. Um, and definitely, since litigation has been threatened, I need support from the superintendent. He can maybe get me in touch or get in touch with our school lawyer so that that lawyer can kind of help us like navigate this situation because it is very tricky. If my plan doesn't work, we can see about trading classrooms, or we can just go back to the drawing board. It's really important that we do not give up. We keep trying something until we find something that works for Miguel. Okay? There's not just two or three choices out there. There's multiple different avenues that we could take. And that's why I want to involve more people, because the more people we have involved, the more ideas that we can come up with. And I think it's really important that we all recognize that our goal is to provide the best possible education for Miguel. Like I said, it's just a lack of communication that's happening right now. We all want that. And I think we just have some different ideas on how to get there. And once we are all meet that common ground, we'll be able to come up with a solution to this problem. Here is the reference that I used, and thank you.